So remember that The Thief of Baghdad is a film directed by Michael Powell, who I think you already know because Michael Powell was the director of Black Narcissus as well. If you look at the IMDb, you're going to see that this film, The Thief of Baghdad, had a lot of directors. Okay, Michael Powell wasn't the only one, but he was one of the main people who added his particular style, to this film. I mean, because here we have two movies about very exotic places, right? Okay, one the Himalayas, right, and the other one this fairy tale, you know, place doesn't exist, of course. Okay, another link to Black Narcissus is that the film was also made in a studio in England. Remember when we studied Black Narcissus, we said that all the actors were really interested in going to the Himalayas, but of course they didn't have any money, and they shot the whole film in a studio in England. Same with The Thief of Baghdad, right? The Thief of Baghdad is a film that you couldn't go anywhere except in a studio because they had to build these fairy tale sets, this Arabian Night sets, But the important thing also was that it was used that they used the Technicolor system, okay, and also this particular film won the Oscar also for best cinematography. I think if you've seen the film, you've seen that it's a very beautiful film, also like Black Narcissus. Want to talk about Conrad Veidt, okay? Conrad Veidt, as you know, played Cesare, the somnambulist, in the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, all right? Remember me telling you that his wife was Jewish, so he left Nazi Germany and came to the United States and, made a whole new career, But most of the time, ironically, playing either a Nazi or, in the case here, playing the bad guy. Okay, the Darth Vader, if you will, of this film. He also worked in England, obviously, where this film was made. Okay. The other link, interestingly enough, to Black Narcissus is this actor named Sabu, who was, if you remember, played the young general years later. In this film, The Thief of Baghdad, he plays the title role. He's the thief. Okay. Now, a lot of people have asked me in the past, is Sabu because that was his stage name, is Sabu the inspiration for Apu in The Simpsons? No. Okay. The name Apu, Matt Groening was the creator of The Simpsons, and he's a big movie fan. Matt Groening is a big movie fan, and there are these three films called the Apu trilogy. You can see them. One is called Pather Panchali, Aparajito, and the last one is called The World of Apu. And that's the inspiration for Apu. These films are not like these Bollywood films that you've seen. If you've ever seen a Bollywood film or heard of a Bollywood film, they're very colorful. They always have dancing and singing in it. They are an hour, I'm sorry, 2.5 hours long. They're very long. Not at all, okay? This movie is in black and white, all three. They're very serious, and they're not spoken in Hindi, which is the language that all of Bollywood films are in, but instead in Bengali, which is the language up in the north of India. Okay. The genie or the jinn in this movie, all right, was played by Rex Ingram, who was African American, and it's very interesting that he was able to get this big role, okay, in this film. Because probably in the United States he wouldn't have been given such a big role. In the United States he was usually playing what usually African American actors played in those days, which was servants, slaves. If it was a Southern movie about the war, like Gone with the Wind, etc. But in the more progressive, more liberal atmosphere of Europe in the UK, he got a very big part in this film. Um, I have a question, I think, about the sets for this film, and this is something that I want you to, take a look at, observe the sets of the film. They were designed by William Cameron Menzies, who won an award for his sets for this movie. Here you see a picture of him with the sets for another movie that he did the sets for just a year before. The Thief of Baghdad is 1940. The year before was 1939, and that year, of course, was Gone with the Wind. Right? He won an Oscar also for that film, and that's a 4-hour film. So he had to design every single set was designed by him, and so he was really one of the geniuses of set design or art director. Okay, which is what usually set designers are called. There's another interesting aspect to The Thief of Baghdad, the 1940 film, and that is that it's a remake of a 1924 film, okay, of a silent film made in Hollywood. And if you see these sets were also designed by William Cameron Menzies. Okay, so I think that this is the only time in Hollywood where one person got to design two movies about the same thing, The Thief of Baghdad, in two different decades, and one in the silent era in 1924, and The Thief of Baghdad in 1940. The original film was made as a vehicle for this man, whose name was Douglas Fairbanks. He was one of the great leading stars of Hollywood in the silent era. He was married to a woman named Mary Pickford, and him, Douglas Fairbanks, along with Mary Pickford, Charlie Chaplin, and D.W. Griffith, together formed a corporation called United Artists that you probably have heard of because it's still around, okay? But they were the founding members, right? So it was Douglas Fairbanks, Charlie Chaplin, D.W. Griffith, the director, and his wife, Mary Pickford. They had a beautiful home in Hollywood, and they called it Pig Fair, okay? Part of Mary Pickford's name and Douglas Fairbanks' name. Okay, and lastly, I'm going to end this presentation by telling you that one of the important aspects of The Thief of Baghdad is that it was the first film to use what we call the blue screen process for special effects, okay, especially during the flying sequences and other. And you'll see that for its time, The Thief of Baghdad has very impressive special effects. Although by now, of course, they don't seem to be too good, okay, and even they're maybe something to laugh at. But for 1940, I think they were quite impressive. Okay.